Elisabeth held her baby tight at the edge of the jungle. The man she loved most was gone. Every sound, the snap of a branch, the rustle of leaves, reminded her of loss. Killed by the very tribe whose village lay ahead. Here's a short story of faith. Let's take a moment together to reflect and find a little calm, even on hard days. Ahead lay the village, filled with danger and the memory of what had just happened. Still, she had to move forward. There was no turning back. How do you go back to the people who killed your husband? How do you walk among them, unarmed, with a child at your side? Every instinct screamed, flee, hide, never return. But fear couldn't decide her path. Something inside whispered that obedience mattered more than safety. Elisabeth wasn't always at this edge. Born in Brussels in 1926 to missionary parents, she grew up in the U.S. in a home where faith was part of everyday life. She studied classical Greek at Wheaton College, with plans to translate scripture for people who had never heard it. There, she met Jim Elliot, whose passion for God matched her own. They married in Quito, Ecuador, and soon had a daughter, Valerie. Together, they lived among indigenous peoples, hoping to bring the gospel to those untouched by it. Jim joined Operation Auca, an attempt to reach the isolated Waorani tribe. It ended in tragedy. Jim and 4 other men were killed by the very people they were trying to reach. Elisabeth, just 29, was left widowed with a 10-month-old daughter. Most would have gone home. Most would have given up. But grief didn't silence her obedience. It forced her to confront something bigger than fear. Now she stood at the edge of the Waorani territory, holding the child her husband had loved. Every rustle in the jungle made her heart race. Could she trust these people? Could she forgive them? She had spent years learning patience and a foreign language among other tribes, but this was different. This was personal. Elisabeth stepped forward. She chose to live among the Waorani, including some of the men who had killed Jim. They gave her a tribal name, Gikari, woodpecker. It fit. She was persistent, tireless, learning their language, understanding their ways, earning trust. Each day, she chipped away at fear and suspicion, and slowly, relationships formed. Lives began to change. And in the process, Elisabeth began to understand what forgiveness really meant. What had seemed impossible became proof that love could overcome fear. After years with the Waorani, Elisabeth returned to the U.S. She became an author and teacher, sharing stories of sacrifice, faith, and reconciliation. She taught at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, helped translate the NIV Bible, and reached thousands through her radio program, Gateway to Joy. Her voice carried the weight of a life lived through suffering and faith. Her personal life had its share of love and loss. She remarried after years of being a widow, only to face heartbreak again when her second husband died. Later, she built a long-lasting relationship that lasted nearly 38 years and continued her work for decades, writing, teaching, and sharing her faith. She eventually retired from public speaking due to dementia. When she died in 2015 at 88, her legacy wasn't just in books or programs. It was lives transformed by a faith that refused to stop in the face of tragedy. When everything falls apart, when fear and loss threaten to make us turn away, will we take the next step? Elisabeth Elliot did. Her life shows that even in the darkest moments, faith can carry us forward, and love and forgiveness can transform the impossible into something extraordinary. In another country, another missionary faced a life that could have ended at any moment, and yet she stood firm in faith. That story is next, and it's one of quiet courage that continues to inspire.